All right, welcome into the Buddy Dill Show. It is Wednesday, October the 25th. I got a little bit to catch up on after yesterday, the baseball. Weird, finally have our two final teams in the MLB, have the World Series matchup set. The Rangers are already in it like we know from yesterday. But today, we're going to tell you what happened last night and the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Game 7. The Diamondbacks fought back and were able to force a Game 7 after winning Game 6 on the road. And they ended up doing it again last night. They won 4-2 in Philadelphia. Something that I wasn't expecting to happen, but the Diamondbacks just did everything right. They hit well, they pitched well, they had timely hitting, they ran the bases really well. They advanced to the World Series for the first time since 2001. If you remember that one, that was the one when they beat the Yankees in 7. They had that walk-off single in Game 7 to win their first ever World Series. This is their second time ever in the World Series. But they got there not just from good starting pitching, but their bullpen was excellent last night. Last night they went 5. The bullpen went 5 innings, did not give up a run, only gave up 1 hit, and had 4 strikeouts. They did everything they were asked to do and more. Corbin Carroll had struggled coming into this series where Ketel Marte had really done well. But Corbin Carroll struggled. Last night, he responded by having started the game with 3 straight hits. He ended up 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. He also had 2 stolen bases and scored 2 runs. So he was a part of every single run that was scored. Those 2 stolen bases were big because both of those happened with 2 outs. Was able to get himself in a scoring position. A base hit followed that up and was able to score him. Gabriel Moreno had a good game. He was 2 for 4 with a RBI. But Brandon Pfaadt, after the start he had at the very beginning of the postseason, he was the first pitcher that the Diamondbacks threw all postseason against the Brewers. He didn't make it out of the second inning, and he struggled. So that was a question mark whether or not he was going to be able to perform. And he really, since then, has done great, especially the last 2 games. Last night, he did not record a decision. He has not recorded a decision yet. But he went 4 strong. He only gave up 4 hits. He did give up 2 earned runs. But he did enough to keep the Diamondbacks in the game and get to that bullpen that's been so dominant. He struck out 7 and walked 2. But like I was talking about, the bullpen was anchored by Kevin Ginkel and Paul Sewald, who both of them, they've not given up a single run this whole entire postseason. Paul Sewald had his 6th save of the postseason last night. He's done extremely well, keeping the Phillies off balance, keeping the Dodgers off balance in that series, and also the Brewers in the wild card series. The Diamondbacks were, I guess, the more complete team. I wasn't expecting that, just based off of how loaded that Phillies lineup is. But that Phillies lineup was streaky during the year, and they were streaky in the postseason because when they were on, and they looked like a team that was going all the way to the World Series. Didn't look like anybody could beat them. And then when they got off, just like they did in the regular season, it was they just didn't have it. The group of Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and Nick Castellanos, 4 just veteran guys who got them here, who were expected to carry this team in the postseason. The last 2 games, Game 6 and 7, they went a combined 1 for 28 with 11 strikeouts. That's just not going to get it done. You need more out of your stars, and the Diamondbacks stars delivered with Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll and Moreno and all those guys like that. They did it, and the Phillies didn't. Alec Bohm tried his best. He hit a home run last night. He was 1 for 3 with an RBI, and Bryson Stott was 1 for 4 with a double and an RBI. They were the only offense that the Phillies had last night. Ranger Suarez, he didn't pitch bad as a starter last night. He did take the loss. He went 4 2/3. He gave up 6 hits and 3 earned runs. He had 6 strikeouts and did not walk anybody, so he didn't do bad, but he just didn't get any run support from this great Phillies offense that we thought was there. But the main thing with the Phillies is their approach. Their approach was so bad at the plate. Trey Turner was a great example of this. Trey Turner just seemed like he was just swinging at everything and hoping he hit something. I think he swung at 6 or 7 balls, just curveballs way out in the dirt. It looked like he wouldn't have been able to hit it if his bat was 6 inches longer. It just didn't. His swing looked out of control, and it wasn't just him. It looked like the whole entire Phillies lineup was going for that home run to get the crowd going, or just to break the spirit of the Diamondbacks. But they couldn't get it because the Diamondbacks pitching was good enough to just keep the ball down in the zone, and they were chasing pitches out of the zone as well. So they just kept throwing it out there, and they kept going after it, and they didn't get a piece of it. Too many strikeouts for the Phillies. Too many situations where they had opportunities to move runners and they didn't. They just didn't play well last night and the last 2 games, really. So the Diamondbacks are going to go to the World Series. So good for them. This is going to be an interesting matchup. It's not going to be the one that I think we thought it was going to be. We thought it was a great chance that it was going to be a World Series rematch from last year with the Phillies and the Astros. But it's going to be the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. That game 1, like I said yesterday, is going to be Friday at 7:07 on Fox. This is a really interesting series if you think about it. The Rangers are 2-1, lead the season series 2-1. Only played each other 3 times, which is not surprising with them being in 2 different leagues. But the Diamondbacks, is like I said, it's their first time in the World Series since 2001 when they beat the Yankees in 7 games. This is the Rangers' first time back in the World Series since 2011, since they lost in 7 to the St. Louis Cardinals after the David Freese magic in Game 6. And then they were not able to do it in Game 7 either. So the Diamondbacks are looking for their second World Series ever. The Rangers are looking for their first ever World Series. So there's a lot of great storylines in this one as well. Diamondbacks were the last team in the playoffs this year. The Rangers were one of the best teams all year that ended up struggling down the stretch and did not get a bye like the Astros or the Orioles did in the AL. But either way, it's going to be a great series. I'm excited for it, and that starts on Friday. Like I said yesterday, the NBA season started off yesterday. There were 2 games yesterday, the first one being the defending champion Nuggets against the Lakers. The Nuggets won this game 119-107. Nikola Jokic just continued his run that he had last year with another triple-double. He had 29 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists to lead the way for the Nuggets. Jamal Murray put in a solid 21 points and 6 assists. He played really well as well. LeBron just wasn't able to do enough last night. It looked like there was a little bit of load management there. He wasn't playing as much. I mean, this year 21 for him, so it's not that surprising. And it's incredible that he's still been playing at the level that he has. I expect him to still have a solid year, and the Lakers to figure some things out. But they weren't able to get anything going. LeBron ended up with 21, 8, and 5. The big problem for the Lakers last night was Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis had 17 points and 8 rebounds. The problem is that he went 0 for 6 from the field and had 0 points in the second half. That is his worst performance. Was his worst shooting performance in a half as a Los Angeles Laker. The Lakers, with LeBron getting older, they have to have AD step up. He has to be able to put in 20, 25 a night and be able to make some big shots. You can't afford for him to go 0 for 6 in the second half. You're not going to win like that. Like I said, this is the first game of the year, so there's no need to overreact or anything, but that's a concern moving forward, and that's going to be the way it works. The other game of the night was the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns at the Golden State Warriors. Devin Booker went off last night. He led the Suns with 32, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists to a 108-104 win over the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant had a solid night as well. He had 18 points and 10 rebounds, an easy double-double. Josh Okogie was a bright spot for the Suns, who is filling in for an injured Bradley Beal, who will be back soon. But he had 17 points and 5 rebounds, which really helped the Phoenix Suns put away the Warriors, especially with some big threes late in the game. But when Bradley Beal comes back, that's going to be a really dangerous team that you would consider them the favorites in the West. The Nuggets are still the defending champions, but the Phoenix Suns' talent is incredible. The Warriors didn't play bad. They played much better when it came to handling the ball compared to last year. One of the big problems they've had the last few years is turning the ball over. I think the end of the game with like 6 turnovers last night, where last year they were averaging somewhere between like 14 and 18. It was way too many turnovers, and it was a emphasis this offseason to cut down on the turnovers. Chris Paul being there will help with that. He handled the ball a lot. He had 14 points and 9 assists. He just didn't shoot the ball very well. He was over 6 from three-point land. Steph Curry led the way for the Warriors. He had 27 points and 6 rebounds. Klay Thompson, he's a big question mark for the Warriors moving forward, especially after this year. Rumors are that he is going to test free agency after this year is over. He had 15 points and 7 rebounds, but he was only 3 of 11 from three-point land as well. So not an ideal start for the Warriors, but they played tight and they played better in some ways and not as good in some ways. Their shooting will come around. Draymond Green did not play with an injury. So I think that they'll be fine too. They'll be right there in the mix of it, in the thick of things in the West, as will the Suns, as will the Lakers, as will the Nuggets. So I think the West is going to be an interesting match. An interesting race this year. There were some college football games on last night. The first one being undefeated Liberty at Western Kentucky. Liberty was able to knock off the Hilltoppers 42-29. That moves Liberty to 8-0 this season. They are still undefeated, having a great year post Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze leaves, and they're undefeated right now. So it is what it is. New Mexico State also played Louisiana Tech last night. New Mexico State was able to win by 3, 27-24. New Mexico State has been a team that's really struggled for the last few years, but they've been able to win a lot of games this year for them, which is great for them. La Tech was not able to pull it off last night, and New Mexico State won. So that was the only 2 games last night in college football. There is some other college football news, though. Like I mentioned yesterday, Quinn Ewers is expected to miss some time with a shoulder injury. So Malik Murphy is likely to start, but Arch Manning is, according to Steve Sarkisian, he will be ready to go. This is a big news because the name is the main thing. He was one of the most sought after recruits in the country this past offseason. He ended up deciding to go to Texas. If he gets some action, that'll be his first career action in college football. Did not have a great spring game, but it was a spring game, so I'm not going to look into it too much. It would not surprise me to see both Malik Murphy and Arch Manning at some point in the game this week. We'll get to their game a little bit more tomorrow, but other than that, that's some big news surrounding college football. So I got some thoughts on some things. And so we're going to open up this little segment right here, Buddy's thoughts on, and it's on sign stealing. And with sign stealing, it's Michigan. So what they've done is apparently they have sent a staffer to multiple road games in the last 3 years to go and try to sit opposite of the team that they're going to play soon or that they're scouting, so that they can film or watch the bench for the other team in order to try to pick up on different signals and signs, so that they can get an advantage, which is not legal. So here's the thing about it, though, is that it doesn't matter. The NCAA came out with this as the Michigan Wolverines are currently 8-0. It doesn't matter. Is it wrong? Yes, it is. Do I think they should be punished? Absolutely. Will they? No. No, they won't, because they're Michigan. Like I said a couple weeks ago when we were doing the tiers, the name, the brand, it matters. And Michigan is one of the biggest brands in all of college football. And they're not going to get in trouble for something like this. If it was a smaller school, if it was someone that was not as well loved all around the country, didn't have as big of a fan base, would they be in trouble? Probably so. Michigan will end up getting in some kind of trouble with this. it'll be 7 years down the road when Jim Harbaugh's gone back to the NFL and every single player on this roster is either in the NFL or retired completely from football. So all those 6th and 7th graders that want to go to Michigan right now might want to consider that whenever they're talking about their recruiting. But nothing's going to happen to this group. They may have to vacate a win. Who cares? They still happen. Big schools can do stuff like this. LSU can steal $500,000 from a children's hospital to give to recruits, and nothing's going to happen to them. Tennessee can hand out money in McDonald's bags, and nothing happens to them. Adidas can give recruits money for teams like Louisville and Kansas in basketball, and what happens? Bill Self gets a 4-game suspension in the easiest part of the schedule 3 years after it happens, and nothing else. It doesn't matter. But if you're Ole Miss, and I know this is just because I'm familiar with this situation, but if you're Ole Miss and a staffer lets a recruit sleep on a couch or lets him go hunting with him, they get a 2-year bowl ban, the biggest probation, one of the biggest probations that the sports has seen since the death penalty from SMU back in the 80s. It doesn't make sense. Tell me how it makes sense that teams can go cheat like Michigan stealing signs, or they can be caught giving money like Tennessee or Kansas or LSU. Nothing happens to them, but when something small happens to a small school like Ole Miss or in Mississippi State, or like the 2 teams we talked about earlier, like Louisiana Tech or Liberty or any of the smaller schools that aren't the big name programs, nothing. I mean, those are the ones that get handed down the toughest punishments for the smaller stuff, where the big programs can do whatever they want to. So, do I think anything's going to happen? Maybe 10 years down the road when none of this stuff matters and all of this stuff is probably obsolete because they'll put the communication device in the quarterback's helmet so it doesn't even have a problem anymore. So, other than that, yeah, Michigan, nothing's going to happen to them because Michigan's too important to college football, right? So, let's move on. It's Wednesday, so that means it's Buddy's Bets. Last week, solid week. Really good week to get back into it. We went 4-1 to get our season record to 8-7. This week I got six on the card, not just 5. We got 6. Maybe I'm getting a little bit greedy here, but they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're going to stick with Georgia State, who's won 2 weeks in a row for us. They are getting 1.5 point against Georgia State. That game is tomorrow, Thursday night, at 6:30 on ESPN. Make sure to tune into that one. Like I said, Dan Ellington, Georgia State's 6-1. They're having a great year. Georgia State's Georgia Southern's a good team as well. But this is a rivalry game. Georgia State doesn't want to lose, and I'm going to go with them plus 1.5. South Carolina coming off 2 losses at Texas A&M. That doesn't make any sense, right? I don't care. Let's do it anyway. Plus 14, South Carolina. I think they cover the points. That game is at 11 o'clock on Saturday on ESPN. This is the battle between the West and the East. Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is 4-4. Western Michigan is 2-6. And Eastern Michigan is getting some points. Give them to me. I'll take them. Plus 3, Eastern Michigan. That game is at 12 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Might be kind of hard to find that one, but this is a battle for Ohio. It's not the big schools in Ohio like Ohio State, but this is Miami of Ohio at Ohio University, the University of Ohio, actually. Miami is a great team, and they're getting 7 points. I'll take it. Give me Miami, Ohio, plus 7. That game's at 2:30 on CBS Sports Network. And then Louisiana at South Alabama. Louisiana's been really good. This is formerly Louisiana Lafayette, if you're listening and not sure about that. But I'll take Louisiana plus 10 against the Jaguars at South Alabama. Home field advantage doesn't mean a whole lot to me down there because there's not going to be anybody at the game. So give me Louisiana plus 10. That game is at 4 o'clock on ESPN Plus. And then one last one. They got Oregon State at Arizona. Oregon State's been a good team. Arizona has played a couple games at Pac-12 after dark. They've been so close a few times. they've been really close to the upset. Last week it was Arizona State at Washington. It got crazy. The couple weeks before it was Arizona against USC that they almost won in double overtime or triple overtime. Arizona was also close against a Mississippi State team early in the year. That they finally get it done this week. Arizona's +3. It's a funky line. I don't like it for the number 11 team in the country playing at Arizona, but I think that Arizona is going to be able to win this one possibly outright. I think they do cover the +3. That game is at 9:30 on ESPN. So here's all my ones I got. I got once again Georgia State +1.5. I think they're going to keep rolling for me. Got South Carolina +14. I think they've played too bad recently. I think they're going to come back and have a good game against the Aggies. Also, I don't trust Jimbo. Then I got Eastern Michigan +3 hosting Western Michigan. And Miami, Ohio +7 at Ohio. Louisiana +10 at South Alabama. And then I think Arizona at home +3 against the number 11 Oregon State Beavers. Other than that, I think that we have a good week this week. Just got back over 500 for the year. Looking to continue that. And we will see what happens. So let's get a good week starting tomorrow night with Georgia State. But other than that, I think that's going to be about it for us today. We will see you again tomorrow to get you ready for the weekend. There's some more basketball on tonight. There's more football on tonight. No baseball tonight for the next two. Like I said, that World Series starts on Friday. Get both teams a little bit of time to rest. They're going to be playing in Texas, the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. So it's going to be a good week for sports, especially once the World Series gets rolling Friday night. You're going to have football, baseball, basketball, everything. So good time for sports, unless you're Michigan. Like I said, it's still not going to be that bad of a time for them. So thank you all again for joining in, and we will see you tomorrow.